Hi there, welcome friends, welcome to Homekeepers. So glad you're there. You know, before I came down here, I got a letter from a lady said she has tea with me every day. Oh, that makes me feel so good. And so I hope that you can have that with us today. And if you're brand new, you're so welcome. Just get your teacup and join us. If you watch the program very much, you know that I grab guests when they're coming through, and I did that last week with Debbie Titus. I'm telling you, it's just one of the greatest things. I hope you can pay attention to what she has to say. And I want to offer her book called The Table Experience. I think we'll go ahead and put that information on the screen now, and then after you hear her, you can determine whether or not you would want this book. I say you do, and especially give it to young women. We'll send it to you for a gift of $25 plus the shipping. And so just make note of that. The number for credit cards is 1-800-229-0059. And this lady has really put her thumb on the pulse of what could truly, truly change this nation. And it all begins around the table. It's an amazing interview. I'm so glad she could come by. So look forward to that. I'm going to join Wanda in the kitchen because we have time constraints today. And so we've got a recipe that's really fast, but one that you might want to keep a few of these things on hand because they're just so cute and I believe will be delicious. Let me join Wanda over here now. And it's smelling good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We debated if these are called Phyllo or Phyllo, and I think we decided Phyllo. Phyllo dough, and these are the, I call them cups, but they call them shells.
Yeah, they're little tart shells.
Yeah. And they're in the freezer section. Here, excuse me for reaching over you. They look like this. And we've already baked some, just browned them a little bit, right? Or do they come like this?
Oh, no, they come like that.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. Just take them out of the freezer, really.
All right.
It's kind of nice that way.
I'll put these in here and tell them what you're mixing together. She's slicing up a very tart apple.
This is one of the ones that you like, though, that you tell me about.
Oh, that's a Fuji, yeah. They're supposed to be maybe the green Granny Smith or whatever, but I don't like real tart and I don't like real spicy. Makes you a very dull person, doesn't it?
Easy to cook for. You don't have to worry about too many spices.
Yeah,
for
right.
Sure.
My husband could take stuff, just Mexican food, that would just probably put me in the hospital. So
yeah,
you're slicing that very thin, and then
yeah, I am, and then I'm just going to dice it thin because the tarts are small. So you know, if you want it to somehow cook up a little bit, you want it.
And do you want me to go ahead and mix this stuff up?
You sure can.
This is Gorgonzola cheese, one of my favorites. I have it on my salads at home. Cranberries. These are actually craisins, aren't they? I don't know.
I think they are, yes.
I couldn't find the cranberries.
That's all right. They'll work.
And this is
be just as good.
Oh, those are good. These are flavors. Really get along well, I would say.
Yeah.
And that last thing I put in was walnuts.
Yeah. And then what you do, you just mix them really together. This is a great, great little appetizer.
It's a great combination.
Isn't it? Yeah. Oops, I see one that's not really.
I'm going to peek in the oven and see how these
it's
are coming. Yeah, they need to melt a little bit more, but
that's all right. By the time we're done, we should be.
You know, I honestly didn't know those already came browned. That's.
Oh yeah.
Just keep them in your freezer. There's so many things you can do with them. They make a wonderful, wonderful appetizer. You weren't here when Debbie was here, were you, Wanda?
No.
Oh.
When did she come in? On a Friday when I wasn't here or something? Yeah.
And I held her over because I think her message is probably so much in sync with Homekeepers and what we're doing here. And it made me wish, and I don't have anything to complain about. I have wonderful children, and they're married right, and they're raising their kids to serve the Lord. I don't have anything to gripe about. But when I read this and saw this, I thought of so many opportunities I missed.
Yeah.
Just so simple. It doesn't cost anything to do what she's going to tell you to do. So I hope you'll hang around for the entire interview.
Okay. All right, there you go. You can mix that
Smush
together.
that together. And then you just kind of stuff it.
Yeah.
Let me see what we're doing over here.
See how well it's coming?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
doing good?
Yes, and they're so pretty. But I think they're too hot for
you to take a bite?
Yes. Which is what my director loves the most. Get a good close-up on it.
All you do is just fill these up and bake them at 350 for about 6 to 8 minutes.
And then they're ready to go,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to cut your apples up ahead of time, you can. Just make sure you put lemon juice over your apples so that they don't turn and miscolor.
Okay, maybe I'll have time at the end of the show to tell you how good these are, but if you're interested in this recipe, the information is coming up on your screen, and then you'll meet Debbie Titus, a very talented gal, and we'll be telling everything she's done, what she's accomplished. You will love her. Stay tuned.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, please send your request along with a gift of $5 or more to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758.
Debbie, I am so glad it worked out for you to be here. Can I just give you a Homekeepers handshake?
Oh, absolutely.
Because everything you've done with this ministry has kind of been back in the back of my mind, and you have formulated it, you brought it so you can hold it and feel it and touch it. And first of all, so I can put this big book on the table, this is, when I picked this up, I thought, you know, somebody has come home here. They have really, this is a beautiful, beautiful book, full of content, and if you put it on your coffee table, people are going to learn something from it, the home experience. And then this one about knocked my socks off, and we're going to talk about the table experience. But let's learn a little bit more about Debbie. You were the founder of Virtue Magazine, is that right?
I was 32 years old. It was in 1978, and you know, it was the height of the women's liberation movement. And it was during that time as a young woman that I felt that while we were being liberated, we still needed the plumb line of the word to anchor us in terms of home values. So I started the first national women's magazine, Christian, that was full color, and it featured fashion, food, home interiors, and special features, which were the testimonies and stories of women.
It was a beautiful magazine.
Thank you.
So everything you do is classy. You're the president of a Global Pastors' Wives Network. I don't know what that is, but I know it's needed.
Oh, well, let me, as a former pastor's wife,
right?
it is so needed. And this is the passion and heart of Vonette Bright, the co-founder of Campus Crusade for Christ. 6 years ago, Vonette, it was formulated just before her husband passed away for Global Pastors Network. And then Vonette said, we need a network for pastors' wives to celebrate pastors' wives for their incredible contribution that they make to the ministry, and let them know how vital and valued they are, and then to empower them with resources. So we have a website that has free downloadable resources for women's ministry, pastors' wives, home and family values, wherever she is. And I'm the new president of that organization, so it's a real honor to serve
And
there.
we have your website, and we will be putting it up, but they can go anywhere from there. Now, as a pastor's wife for 30 years in several states, you and your husband felt a call to go into something else, and you established a mentoring mansion.
Yes.
I love the term. How do you use it?
Well, the mentoring mansion concept is, at that time, I was speaking in women's conferences to about 20 to 30,000 women a year. And it was actually around the year 2000. I opened the mansion in the fall of 2001, and the mentoring mansion. But I began realizing that we were having larger crowds than ever before in history in America, mega churches, larger churches, We're selling more Christian materials than we ever had, but our divorce statistics and family fragmentation was increasing. So all of the venues we had created were not effectively holding Christian families to values of marriage, values of kindness, values of morality, etc. So what I'm doing as a speaker isn't as effective than I could do as a mother.
Yeah.
So I created by buying a large home, and I bring 8 women at a time to spend 4 days with me. And I mentor them as if I was their mother. I cook for them, I sit and talk to them, I tuck them in bed at night, I wake them up in the mornings. So I've had over 1,000 women in my home in the last 8 years.
A couple questions. This kind of thing, it's like inside yourself, like a homing pigeon, like, oh yeah, this I didn't know what it was, but this is what I'm looking for. And also, are these girls just leaving totally changed?
Well, it's women of all ages who come. So I have grandmothers, and then I have young pregnant women who are just starting their families. And it's open to the public. And the transformation that happens, yes, totally changed. But everyone comes, very diverse backgrounds, very diverse needs. We don't ask what their need is. We do not know their personal story. And in that environment, I just reinforce God's word, the plumb line of love and peace. And it's in the environment of love and peace that God speaks in their heart and takes where their lifestyle is out of alignment from the word of God and tells them the adjustments they need to make. I don't tell them. It's not counseling. It's not therapy. But the transformation is so internal. It lasts. I get stories on and on of people who've been affected by that experience. And in fact, my new title in America, given to me by men, is I'm a husband's best friend in America. So it's the men.
I think you'd be really proud of that.
Yes, the men get the transformation from the result of their lives. But single women come too. And so it's not just married women.
Well, I wanted you to understand a little bit where she's coming from. Now listen to me, friends. I've been on this program for about 11 years. And I've never had anything so profound from something so ordinary. Every home has one. And I always thought there's something there about this, and I've stumbled around it. This woman put it in a book. I really want you to hear what she has to say about the table experience. And I can tell you, I look at my dining room table, my kitchen table, so much differently. Since I've looked at this book, I consider it a holy place, holy ground. So, follow us on this. She wrote the table experience, and you did a lot of research, and I kind of knew it, but I had no idea how prominent the table is in Scripture.
Unbelievable. I didn't know it either until I started on this journey.
And I'm telling you, if people could grasp this, this would change America. We love big crusades. We love mega church. We love all that. This would change America.
It will.
Now, how does the table transform your home and your relationships?
Well, peace and love are the two essential things that the human heart need. And the table makes the emotions stable. So think of S-T-A-B-L-E. Take the S off, is the table. So the human soul, when you sit eye to eye, face to face, 2 to 3 times a day, and you converse at the table, it begins causing a person to be esteemed, to be valued, to feel significant, to have a place of contribution, conversation. And if you think about it, when a baby, an infant, is put in a high chair and you put that tray up to them, that researchers from the academic world know that if children eat at a table at least 5 times a week, they're more academically motivated, and they will be less likely to experiment in drugs, sex, or deviant behavior that's destructive to them. So if you think about the high chair, it's the first table, and from the beginning of training a child, the beginning of character is formed in the routine of eating meals together. And I realized that, but I couldn't figure out why. And researchers don't know why, they just know it works. Well, because I think truth, if you know a truth of something that works, you can go into the biblical text and you'll be able to support what you know to be true.
Yeah,
So I
support the research.
Absolutely. So I started researching the Word and discovered God created the first table.
It's everywhere in Scripture.
It's everywhere in Scripture.
Now, was that in Exodus or?
Exodus chapter 25, when he was telling Moses to build the tabernacle. And you know, none of the pieces there in the tabernacle that became the model for the temple later existed until God designed them and created them. And he gave Moses the kind of materials. Moses would be like the general contractor. God would be the architect. And the second piece of furniture in the tabernacle was the table. And it's interesting when you read it because he said, I want you to put it on 4 legs, 4 corners. And the measurement of the height of that table is the measurement of the tables that
The
you
kitchen
and I,
table?
yes, that you and I still eat at today. And the traditional, though we have round and oval tables and pedestal tables now, the traditional table is 4 corners on 4 legs. And you remember that Moses grew up in the Egyptian culture. And the Egyptian culture didn't have tables on legs. They were slabs of marble, and they reclined. But the table in the tabernacle was a table like we know it today. Then if you look at that text, God told Moses, after you build the table, I want you to make dishes, plates, spoons, goblets, pitchers. Read it. But you don't see what the text says in the illustrations of the study Bibles. So as you look on in the later chapters, he says, I want you to weave a fine linen cloth and put it on that table, set the table, and then what did he tell Moses to do? He said, I want you to set on that table the bread of the presence.
I'm getting goosebumps, lady. I really am.
Well, you know, and I'm reading this text, and then I'm going to the New Testament. Who said I'm the bread of life? Jesus. So we
Put the
know,
bread on the table.
Put the bread of the presence. Well, what did the priest do at that table? That's where he brought the blood offering. And the table in the tabernacle was redemption. Here's Christ, here's the blood. And so there's redemption that happens before once a year he would go into the Holy of Holies. So I realized that the academic research knows something supernatural. They use those terms. Something that we don't understand, they will say,
Well, you mentioned
happens, but it is supernatural.
Yeah, and I know some other research that's quite recent, within the last 2 years maybe. Joseph Califano was commissioned, I think by the government, and then he wrote a book on it, How Do You Keep a Kid Off Drugs? They found that if they eat with their family 2 times a week,
Absolutely.
and if they go to church, I thought, duh. I mean, you didn't have to spend a lot of money to find that out. Just ask me. I knew that. But it's amazing, and we might go over some of these, but from the table in Exodus all the way to the marriage supper of the Lamb, tables are everywhere.
Well, and if you look at various texts of what happens, you'll see that there's emotional healing taking place at the table. What happened with the prodigal son? And when he came home, what did the parents do? They made a feast for him.
Dinner, yeah.
And so, you know, I have seen and have so many stories since women have heard and men have heard this teaching and say, you know, we have broken relationships in our families. We have sons and daughters that have not been to our home in years because they've chosen lifestyles that we didn't agree. We've had harsh words, and they haven't come home. And I said, you know what? Just make dinner and invite them to dinner. Don't ever address what they've done, what they aren't doing.
Yeah.
Make a meal and let the supernatural bread of the presence
Amen. Oh,
with love
so
and
good,
peace
yeah.
do the work in their heart. It's unbelievable, the stories that you know people are experiencing.
We have put your website on the screen,
Thank you.
And we will leave it up. I look back raising my 2 children, and we traveled in evangelism, and sometimes we stayed in these not so lovely church apartments. But
those were the days,
yeah,
weren't they?
But if it were just a kind of a fancy paper towel, I'd have a placemat and try to put some fruit in the middle. All that, I did all that, but you know what I never did, and I wish I'd had your book, was to think about the value of us, because you can plan ahead of time what you might bring up in conversation. That I hope the ladies watching this today will get this, that you plan ahead, that you're thinking all day, that evening meal, pleasant things you can bring up, you know, how you can stimulate the conversation. I remember when Bobby Kennedy was alive, how at their table they had a lot of children, that he would think ahead of subjects that would stimulate them, you know, maybe even get a little debate.
And I remember reading about the Kennedy family, and he often gave them a vocabulary word too. And they would talk about the definition, use it in a sentence, it would become funny, or try to spell it and be crazy, plan ahead.
This isn't rocket
You know,
science.
No, but Proverbs 9:2 says she prepares her meat, she mixes her wine, she also sets her table. And she, in that text, isn't a woman, it's wisdom. So wisdom, whether you're a man, a woman, single mother, you know, divorcee, it doesn't matter. It's wisdom for you to think ahead. What's the busy schedule this week, and how can we have a meal at the table? If you have to buy the food at the deli, take the dishes out of the dishwasher and don't put them in the cabinet, put them straight on the table so it's ready whenever you get there. And then
Give it some thought.
Yeah, think about how can we connect eye to eye, face to face, our hearts in love and peace, not in argument, criticism, put down.
I know you always emphasize that.
Yes.
Because there have probably been a lot of knockdown dragouts at the table. No wonder
Very
people
serious.
are taking so much for indigestion.
And you know what I'm discovering as I'm hearing personal stories? Many of the deep emotional damage things that happen in dysfunctional families happen at the table. Fathers in anger will send their kids away from the table. Kids being slapped at the table, told to shut up and eat, or sit there for hours until they finish everything on. Much of the abuse happened at the table. And so the next generation says, I'm never putting my kids through that. And they've raised children who've never sat at a table.
Oh, I hope.
The dysfunction continues.
Absolutely.
But in a different way. It's just manifested in a different place.
I hope my viewers, who I love so much, and I pray for you, I hope you're getting this, and turn the television off.
Yes.
And you don't eat in the family room with television. You do it at this holy ground called the table.
At a table. Well, you know what's interesting is some women say to me, Debbie, how do I get my husband to come to the table? I have neglected the table, so he's now comfortable watching his games and is in his recliner chair. What do? You know what I tell them? Step number 1, take the TV tray, not just his paper plate. Take the TV tray, put a mat on it, a little cloth, a little candle, a little flower, and set a place for him at the table, at his table. Make one for you and sit with him. Start there. And then set it wherever your table is, in your kitchen or your dining room. And once you do that, he can't wait to come. And then you might need to adjust your eating time to when the game that he likes to watch is over. Do it before or after.
I'm looking for, while we're talking about this, I got a lot of notes here. Your daughter's husband left.
Yes.
And just anybody who's been through that knows the brokenness.
Yes.
And she continued to set the table. Long story short, the prodigal husband kind of
4 children.
missed the table, didn't he?
He missed the table, and he started coming by the house to see the younger children, especially the baby boy, because he was the youngest. So he would stop by after work to see the children, and my daughter would have dinner set there and would always invite him to stay and eat. And she was very criticized by a lot of her friends because she had violated their marriage. He moved out, had his own apartment, and
I typed up what she said. Do you remember
Go
what
ahead.
she said?
I know exactly what she
Oh,
said.
go ahead. I would
Well,
allow.
a daughter, her friends criticized her, and how could you have him come to dinner every day? You shouldn't do that. And she said, well, you know what? I would invite a stranger to my table, and I would invite an enemy to my table, and right now he's both.
And the happy ending is that they were
Their
reunited,
marriage
yeah.
was reconciled. They are together. They've celebrated their 26th or 7th wedding anniversary, and they are now enjoying their grandchildren together and our great-grandchildren. And so hang in there. Hang in there, wives. Don't be quick.
We are so out of time, but would you hang around just a little bit?
Absolutely.
We'll talk a little bit more in a minute.
Okay.
Stay with us.
Arthelene would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
Okay, I again want to offer you this book. I'm sure that that conversation really whetted your appetite for this. We'll send it to you for that gift of at least $25. The address is on your screen. If you use your credit card, call 1-800-229-0059. And be sure and watch the next Homekeepers program, because Debbie will be on again and will elaborate on this marvelous, marvelous truth that is so simple. I guess it just kind of passed all of us by. But I really believe that if you put into practice the things that she's written about in this book and change your little world, it'll change the whole world. Thanks for being with us. I hope you'll join me next time. And please remember this, there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you would like a video copy of today's Homekeepers program for just $19.95, call 1-800-229-0059 for credit card orders, or send a gift of at least $19.95 to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Be sure to note the program number which appears on your screen.